The silence of stars. The council chamber stretched into darkness, its walls carved from stone older than most civilizations in the galaxy. 7 species sat in a circle, their forms illuminated by the pale blue glow of the holographic star map rotating slowly above them. The Vex representative spoke first, her crystalline body refracting light in sharp angles. The humans have been silent for 3 cycles now. No transmissions. No trade vessels. No diplomatic contact. Good, rumbled the Thorak ambassador, his 6 arms folded across his massive chest. Perhaps they finally realized they don't belong among us. The Elysian delegate, a being of pure energy contained within a shimmering field, pulsed with uncertainty. This is unprecedented. Humans are many things, but silent is not one of them. It was true. For 200 years, humanity had been the galaxy's most persistent presence. They talked endlessly, asked questions about everything, and insisted on friendship with species that barely tolerated them. They were weak, their ships were slow, and their technology lagged centuries behind the great powers. Yet they never stopped trying. Maybe they went extinct, suggested the Vex. Their homeworld is fragile. 1 solar flare, 1 asteroid. We should investigate, the Elysian interrupted. Send a probe to their system. The Thorak laughed, a sound like grinding stone. Why waste resources? If the humans are gone, we've lost nothing but noise. The vote was called. 4 species voted against investigation. 3 abstained. The matter was closed. 16 cycles later, the first report arrived. A Vex mining expedition had ventured into what was once human territory, seeking rare metals on the outer colonies humanity had established. They expected to find abandoned settlements, perhaps a few distress beacons. Instead, they found nothing. Not abandoned, nothing. The colonies were gone. No ruins. No debris. The planets had been stripped to bedrock, their resources extracted with surgical precision. Even the orbital stations had vanished, leaving only faint radiation signatures. The second report came 3 days later. A Thorak warship patrolling the border detected something impossible, a vessel moving at 0.97 light speed. No species in the galaxy had achieved that. The laws of physics made it impractical, the energy requirements absurd. The vessel ignored all hails and disappeared into dark space. The third report brought the council together in emergency session. Human ships had been spotted, dozens of them, but they weren't like before. These vessels were massive, their hulls black as void, emitting no heat signatures. They moved in perfect formation, passing through neutral space without communication or acknowledgement. Where are they going? The Elysian asked. Away from us, the Vex replied, her voice uncertain. They're moving toward the galactic edge, beyond charted space. Let them go, the Thorak said. Whatever they're doing, it's no concern of ours. But the Elysian had run calculations. At their current trajectory and speed, they'll reach the outer rim in 40 cycles. There's nothing out there except. She stopped. Everyone in the chamber understood. Beyond the rim lay the dark zones, regions where space itself became unstable. Entire fleets had been lost trying to explore it. The energy required to survive that journey was beyond anything the galaxy had ever produced. They'll die out there, the Thorak said with finality. The humans always overreached. This is just their final mistake. The council agreed. Humanity's silence would be permanent. 20 cycles passed. The galaxy continued as it always had. Trade routes flourished. Old conflicts simmered. The great powers maintained their territories and observed their treaties. No one spoke of the humans anymore. Then the beacons went dark. First 1, then 10, then 100. The ancient warning systems that had guarded the galactic rim for 1,000,000 years simply stopped transmitting. Engineers were dispatched to investigate, but before they arrived, something else happened. The stars began to move. Not metaphorically, literally. Entire star systems along the outer rim shifted position by measurable degrees. Gravitational readings went haywire. Physics itself seemed to bend. And then the message arrived. It wasn't transmitted through normal channels. It appeared simultaneously on every screen, every console, every communication device in the galaxy. No encryption could stop it. No firewall could block it. The message was simple. We heard you. We listened to every word. You said we didn't belong. You were right. We don't belong here, we belong everywhere. You taught us that the galaxy has rules. Now we'll teach you something, rules change. We're coming home. Not as guests. Not as equals. As something new. Wait for us. The transmission ended. Silence returned to the council chamber. 7 species sat frozen, staring at the star map above them. The Thorak was the first to speak. What have we done? No one answered. They all knew. They had dismissed humanity as weak, as irrelevant, as annoying children who would never amount to anything. But children grow up. And humanity had gone somewhere to do exactly that, somewhere beyond the reach of the galaxy's rules, beyond the limits of known space. Now they were coming back. And the galaxy was about to learn what humans became when you stopped paying attention. The return. The evacuation of Thorak Prime began at dawn. For the first time in 8,000 years, the Thorak were retreating. Their massive war fleets, legendary across the galaxy for crushing 100 rebellions, now fled from an enemy they had never even fought. Commander Vrath stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Unbreakable, watching his homeworld shrink in the viewport. Around him, his officers worked in tense silence, coordinating the exodus of 12 billion souls. Status, he growled. 70% evacuated, Commander. The remaining civilians are boarding transports now. His tactical officer hesitated. Sir, we still haven't detected any human vessels in this sector. Vratha's 4 eyes narrowed. They're coming. The beacons don't lie. 3 weeks had passed since humanity's message. In that time, the galaxy had descended into chaos. The warning beacons along the rim, silent for 1,000,000 years, had suddenly activated, all of them screaming the same alert: massive spatial distortion approaching, origin unknown, recommend immediate evacuation of all systems within 200 light-years. Every species knew what that meant. Humanity was coming, and they were bringing something with them that bent space itself. Commander. The sensor operator's voice cracked. Contact. Multiple signatures emerging from dark space, distance, 50 light-years and closing fast. How many? I can't get an accurate count. The sensors can't distinguish individual vessels. It's reading as one continuous mass. Vrath felt his blood run cold. Show me. The main display flickered to life, showing long-range sensor data. What he saw made no sense. It wasn't a fleet, it was a wall. A solid barrier of matter stretching across hundreds of thousands of kilometers, moving toward them at speeds that should have torn reality apart. 40 light-years, the operator whispered. 35. Commander, at this rate they'll reach us in less than an hour. All ships, maximum thrust. Get our people out of here. Now. The Thorak fleet burned hard for the jump point, their engines screaming. Behind them, transports struggled to keep pace, overloaded with refugees. 20 light-years. 15. Vrath made a decision. Battlegroup Hammer, form defensive positions. By the transport's time. Silence on the bridge. Everyone knew what that meant. Sir, his first officer said quietly. We've never seen their weapons. We don't know what they're capable of. Then we're about to find out. Vrath turned to face his crew. 200 years ago, we told the humans they were weak. That they didn't belong among us. Today, we learn if we were right. Battle stations. The Unbreakable and 15 other warships broke formation, turning to face the approaching darkness. These vessels had shattered planets, cracked moons, reduced entire civilizations to ash. Now they waited, weapons charged, as something impossible came closer. 5 light years. 4. The wall resolved into individual shapes. Ships, thousands of them, each one larger than anything the Thorak had ever built. Their hulls absorbed light, making them appear as holes in space itself. No heat signatures. No electromagnetic emissions. Just presence, vast and terrible. 3 light years. 2. All weapons, fire at will. Vrath commanded. The Thorak fleet unleashed hell. Particle beams capable of melting continents lanced through space. Missiles with fusion warheads powerful enough to crack planets streaked toward the human vessels. Kinetic rounds moving at fractional light speed turned the void into a storm of deadly projectiles. The human fleet didn't slow down. The weapons struck home. Vrath saw the impacts, saw explosions bloom across the lead vessels. And then he saw something that made his warrior's heart sink. The damage healed. In seconds, the torn hulls simply reformed. Like water closing over a stone, the human ships absorbed the attacks and continued forward, completely unharmed. Impossible, someone whispered. 1 light year. 0.5. The human ships were close enough now that visual sensors could capture details. Vrath stared at the display, trying to understand what he was seeing. The vessels weren't made of metal or composite materials. They looked organic, alive, their surfaces rippling and shifting. As he watched, one of the ships seemed to split apart and reform, its structure flowing like liquid. "They're not ships," his science officer said, voice trembling. "They're something else. Commander, I'm detecting biomechanical signatures. These things are grown, not built. 0.2 light years. They're slowing down." The human fleet came to a stop, a wall of living darkness between the Thorak and the rest of the galaxy. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then they spoke. The voice came through every speaker on every ship simultaneously. It sounded human, but wrong, like thousands of voices speaking in perfect unison, layered over each other. Thorak Commander Vrath. Stand down your weapons. Vratha's hand tightened on his command chair. Identify yourself. We are humanity. All of us. We are the question you never answered. What happens when a weak species stops trying to join you and starts building something new? What do you want? Vrath demanded. Nothing from you. We're going home. But we needed you to see us first. To understand. Understand what? That you were right. We didn't belong in your galaxy. Your rules, your hierarchies, your endless competitions for dominance, we were never going to win that game. So we left and created something different. We went into the dark and we changed ourselves. We became what we needed to be. The human fleet began to shift, their formations flowing like schools of fish. As they moved, Vrath realized they weren't separate ships at all, they were parts of a single, vast organism, thinking and acting as one. You spent 200 years mocking us, the voice continued. Calling us weak, primitive, annoying. You couldn't imagine that weakness might be strength. That asking questions meant we were learning. That our fragility forced us to innovate. You never wondered what we might become if we had time and freedom to grow. What are you now? Vrath asked, though he dreaded the answer. We are what comes next. Not human, not alien. Something between. We merged ourselves, flesh and machine, individual and collective, matter and energy. Out there in the dark, we had no rules to follow, no limits to respect. We rewrote ourselves from the genetic level up. And now we're coming home to show you what we built. The fleet began to move again, flowing around the Thorak vessels like water around stones. They didn't attack, didn't threaten. They simply passed by, heading deeper into the galaxy. Tell the council, the voice said, already fading. Tell them we're not here to conquer. We're here to exist. And if they try to stop us, if anyone tries to stop us, they'll learn that the galaxy's rules don't apply to us anymore. We made our own. The human fleet vanished into the depths of space, leaving the Thorak behind. Vrath stood frozen on his bridge, watching them go. Around him, his crew sat in stunned silence. Sir, his first officer finally said. What do we tell the council? Vrath thought about humanity as he'd known them, curious, persistent, frustratingly optimistic. Then he thought about what they'd become, a unified consciousness spanning thousands of living ships, powerful enough to ignore the galaxy's greatest weapons. Tell them, he said slowly, that we made a terrible mistake. We thought silence meant surrender. We were wrong. Humanity didn't give up. They just stopped talking to us and started talking to themselves. And what they said to each other changed everything. He turned away from the viewport, his expression grim. Tell them the humans are home. And the galaxy will never be the same. The New Order. The Emergency Council convened in a location no one had used for 3,000 years, the Nexus, a massive station built in the exact gravitational center of the galaxy. It was neutral ground, protected by ancient treaties and weapons systems that predated most civilizations. Today, those protections felt meaningless. Representatives from 47 species filled the amphitheater, their voices echoing in heated argument. The Vex crystalline delegation demanded immediate military action. The Elysians called for diplomacy. The Thorak, humbled by their encounter, advocated caution. Smaller species simply looked terrified. Order. The council arbiter, an ancient being called a keeper, slammed its staff against the floor. The sound reverberated through the chamber, forcing silence. We have received humanity's coordinates. They have established themselves in Sector 447, the former dead zone near the galactic core. A holographic map appeared, showing a region of space that had been considered uninhabitable for millennia. Radiation storms, gravitational anomalies, unstable stars, nothing could survive there. Impossible, the Vex representative said flatly. That sector is lethal to all known life. Was lethal, the keeper corrected. Our probes show the entire region has been restructured. The humans have somehow stabilized the anomalies and are building something massive inside. Building what? Someone asked. We don't know. They refuse direct communication with any government. However, they have sent a message for this council. The keeper gestured, and a transmission began to play. The voice was the same one Commander Vrath had heard, thousands of humans speaking as one, their words perfectly synchronized. To the Galactic Council, we have returned to our birthright. The galaxy is large enough for all of us. We ask nothing from you except to be left alone. In exchange, we will not interfere with your territories, your politics, or your wars. Consider this our declaration of independence. The transmission paused, then continued with an edge that made everyone in the chamber tense. However, we know some of you will not accept this. You will see us as a threat, a disruption to your order. You will vote to send fleets against us. Before you do, understand three things. The holographic display changed, showing images that made the council gasp. First, we are not vulnerable. What you saw in Thorak space was a scouting force, less than 1% of our capability. We have 12,000 vessels in our network, each one capable of repairing itself, adapting to any environment, and surviving conditions that would annihilate your ships. We have become post-biological. Energy feeds us. Vacuum is our home. Time moves differently for us now, while you debate for hours, we think and build for years. The image shifted to show a construction project of staggering scale. Massive ring structures surrounded entire stars, harvesting their energy. Second, we are not alone. During our exile, we encountered 17 species beyond the galactic rim. Civilizations you never knew existed because they evolved in the dark zones you consider impassable. They faced the same rejection we did, cast out, forgotten, left to die. We found them. We helped them. We merged with them. Now they are us, and we are them. We are not humanity anymore. We are the synthesis. Shocked murmurs filled the chamber. The keeper called for silence again, but the revelation had shaken everyone. Humanity hadn't just survived, they'd created an entirely new form of civilization. Third, and most important, we remember everything. The holographic display changed again, showing archived records, every transmission, every treaty, every casual dismissal of humanity over 200 years. The Council's own words played back to them, they don't belong among us. Let them go extinct. Why waste resources on humans? We heard every word. We recorded every insult, every rejection, every moment you treated us as less than equals. We could be angry. We could seek revenge. We could demonstrate our power by reducing your fleets to atoms and your homeworlds to memories. The entire council held its breath. But we won't. Because unlike you, we learned from our pain. You taught us that power without wisdom leads only to cruelty. That strength means nothing if you use it to oppress the weak. So we will not become what you are. Instead, we offer you a choice. The display shifted to show two paths, branching like a fork in a road. Path 1, accept us. Acknowledge the synthesis as an independent entity. Establish diplomatic relations based on mutual respect. We will share some of our technology, not weapons, but tools for healing, for terraforming, for solving the resource conflicts that have plagued you for millennia. We will help any species that asks, without demanding submission or tribute. In time, perhaps we can build something better together. The council chamber filled with whispers. Some species looked hopeful. Others skeptical. The Thorac representative leaned forward, interested despite himself. Path 2, reject us. Send your fleets. Try to destroy what we've built. We will defend ourselves, and you will lose. Not because we want war, but because we evolved beyond your ability to harm us. After your fleets are gone, after your weapons fail, we will still offer Path 1. But you will have wasted lives, resources, and time proving something you already know, you can't stop change by fighting it. The transmission shifted to show a single human face, or what had once been human. The features were recognizable but strange, enhanced and modified in ways that blurred the line between organic and synthetic. My name was Sarah Chen, the face said, speaking alone now instead of in the collective voice. 200 years ago, I was a diplomat. I spent 40 years trying to convince you that humanity deserved respect. You laughed at me. Called me naive. Told me that in the real galaxy, power was all that mattered. Her expression softened, becoming almost sad. You were wrong. Power matters, yes. But what you do with it matters more. We have power now, more than you can imagine. And we choose to use it building instead of destroying. Growing instead of conquering. We choose to be what you could never be, something new. The transmission ended. Silence filled the nexus. 47 species sat frozen, processing what they'd just witnessed. The humans, no, the synthesis, had offered them a choice between cooperation and irrelevance. The keeper spoke first. We must vote. Path 1 or Path 2. Acceptance or conflict. This is blackmail, the Vex representative snapped. They threaten us with superior force and call it diplomacy. No, the Elysian delegate said quietly. They're giving us the choice we never gave them. Remember? 200 years ago, humanity asked to be our equals. We voted to ignore them. Now they're asking again, but this time they don't need our permission. They're being generous by even offering. The Thorac representative stood, his massive form commanding attention. I fought them. I saw what they've become. And I tell you this, if we choose path 2, we don't just lose a war. We lose our future. They will survive our attacks and continue building while we exhaust ourselves fighting an enemy we can't defeat. But if we choose path 1. He paused. If we choose path 1, we might learn something. Learn what? Someone asked. That the weak species we dismissed became strong by doing what we never could, they changed. They adapted. They let go of everything they were to become something better. And maybe, just maybe, we could learn to change too. The debate raged for hours. Species argued, threatened, pleaded. But slowly, inevitably, the momentum shifted. Because deep down, every representative in that chamber understood the truth. The galaxy had existed for billions of years under the same rules, the strong dominated, the weak submitted or died, and change came only through conquest. Humanity had broken those rules. They'd created something new, not by defeating the old powers but by refusing to play their game. When the vote came, it was closer than anyone expected. Path 1, 28 votes. Path 2, 19 votes. The decision was made. 1 year later, the first embassy opened in synthesis space. The structure was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen, a living building that grew and adapted to its inhabitants, providing perfect conditions for each species. The synthesis had kept their promise, sharing technology that revolutionized medicine, agriculture, and energy production across dozens of worlds. But they never shared their weapons. They never explained exactly how they'd merged flesh and machine. They never revealed the full extent of their capabilities. Why? The Elysian ambassador asked Sarah Chen during a diplomatic reception. Why hold back? You could reshape the entire galaxy. Sarah, or the being that had once been Sarah, smiled. Because that's your job. We changed ourselves. Now you have to decide what you want to become. We can't do it for you. That would just create a new hierarchy, a new way for the strong to control the weak. So what happens now? Now. Sarah looked out at the stars, visible through the embassy's transparent walls. Now we wait and see what you build. Maybe you'll keep fighting each other. Maybe you'll finally work together. Either way, we'll be here, not as rulers, not as saviors, but as neighbors. As equals. The ambassador considered that. You really meant it. Everything you said about not seeking revenge. Of course. Because revenge would mean we're still thinking like you used to. Still obsessed with power and dominance. Sarah's expression grew distant. We went into the darkness and found something you never looked for, a way to be strong without making others weak. It took 200 years and the merger of 18 civilizations, but we learned. And maybe, eventually, you will too. She turned back to the ambassador, her hybrid eyes reflecting starlight. The galaxy told us we didn't belong. They were right. We didn't belong in their galaxy. So we made our own. And now we're offering to share it, not as a gift from superiors to inferiors, but as partners in something new. That's the real test. Can you accept equals when they used to be beneath you? The ambassador had no answer. But across the galaxy, slowly, species began to change their thinking. They saw what humanity had become and wondered what they might become too. They watched the synthesis build impossible things and asked themselves, what could we build if we stopped fighting? The old order didn't collapse overnight. The great powers remained powerful. Wars still happened. But something new had entered the galaxy, not a conqueror, not an empire, but an idea. The idea that strength came from adaptation. That survival meant evolution. That the future belonged not to those who held on to power, but to those brave enough to change. And in the heart of synthesis space, 12,000 living ships orbited reconstructed stars, building something the galaxy had never seen before, a civilization based not on dominance, but on transformation. Humanity had gone into the darkness weak and alone. They had returned as something new. And the galaxy would never be the same.